Poor people here who have dated rich people, what did you learn? How was the contrast? She was a full-time professional fine artist, oil painter. Dad was a pioneer in green energy, whole family is loaded as a result. She was able to focus on school, earn her MFA, travel the world on residencies, etc. She was wonderful, and goes to show you that when you have a well-adjusted upbringing, support, and the money to provide resources, you can be who you were born to be. Absolutely could not relate to the socio-economic struggles of the people she dated though. He didn't have any concept of saving money, it was always just there because his money was always earning money. Having money was an income stream of itself. Also he had no concept of how much anything cost. I grew up very blue-collar poor. The men I knew fixed cars, re-roofed their own houses, knew plumbing and electrical stuff etc. My husband grew up very wealthy. His family had a massive house, a pool, a vacation home in Spain and maids. Honestly, the contrast was stark. The first thing he did after we moved in together was put liquid dish soap in the dishwasher. He didn't know anything. He didn't know the vacuum needed to be emptied. It could have been a deal breaker, but he fully embraced his ignorance and learned. It was a whole new world and he loved it. One of my favorite memories is of putting up our first Christmas tree. He'd never been part of that and got so much joy from it. I dated two dudes with trust funds. I learned no amount of money can make you forget your mommy, daddy issues. Never knew. She worked a normal job, lived in a normal apartment. It wasn't until someone told me after we broke up, she moved for work, that I found out her family was minted. Dated the daughter of a wealthy member of parliament for my country's Conservative Party. During diner discussions at their home, it really hammered at home how little her mother, the MP, understood about the daily reality of being poor. The family was an entity in itself and had rules. Relationships are everything. The family itself is a thing, the club, the parties, the vacations, the homes, the cars, the business, it's all about the family. The patriarch, the traditions, the schools, the business partners and the neighborhood and the club. It's not a bad thing, it's just different. I was raised to be independent and get the fuck out of my parents' house. They stick together like glue. Everyone has a role to play, but they have security and they belong. I never belonged anywhere. I was raised by people who had kids because that's what you were supposed to do, and then I got the fuck out of their house when I turned 18 and that was that. I wouldn't say I was poor, more average. But the two wealthy women I dated were both quite spoiled. They expected to get their way, and what was interesting for me was that they both expected their money to open doors and solve problems, rather than using courtesy or charm. My ex-best friend was the same. What was very noticeable for her especially was the smallest thing was a crisis. People who have never dealt with true pain or loss because they've always been shielded from it or upset by small things. I did. My first boyfriend. His family was wealthy but grew up poor. They were as down home and wonderful as possible. Never forget your roots. I learned that soup could be homemade and didn't just come in tins. In fact, I discovered a whole bunch of foods I'd never previously encountered, such as dates. In general, I realized that outwardly perfect families with loads of money and material security could still be miserable and dysfunctional. A comfort, maybe, and an eye-opener. Edit. Some context for all the folks trying to educate me on soup. When I learned the fact above, I was 15. I was raised by a single working mom who didn't cook much and to that point, hadn't made soup. She wasn't lazy or ignorant. Further edit. The two most recent soups I made. When I was 26, I was making around $20K as a server. I dated a 32-year-old corporate attorney who was making $300K. I think the biggest thing it showed me is that I was capable of more in my life. For a long time I thought I was just going to be a server because that's all I could do. She showed me to want more and to strive for more. I'll always be thankful to her for that because she changed the trajectory of my life. I went back to school and have a different career now. She pushed me to want something different, and it's something I didn't know was possible until I met her. I've dated a couple. I grew up adjacent to wealth, and first off, they were lovely people. Caring and thoughtful. But the truth is, they were simply unable to understand poor. What I realized was that the struggle to afford things binds people together. And working towards a common goal, say a trip or a more expensive item, is a reward that couples can share together. We did it, they'll say. I also realized just how much the subject of money comes up in any relationship, and if you aren't in the same boat financially, it's alienating for both of you. Hard to get past that in most situations. She was on leave from a work injury and she was saying she's getting a certain amount. Her mom was like, wow, that not a lot at all. I was in the backseat thinking, she still makes more than me. She's cool though, not spoiled by life or anything. Always have a way out. People with money know it's a tool to control people and will use it. If you find you're staying because you've been trapped without ability to financially survive, well, no bueno. When we would vacation, I would get threatened abandonment in another place that I couldn't leave, so I'd have to comply. Dinner on him and we argued at the restaurant? Give in or he will pay only his portion. It was all control. Now I let people treat me but always am able to cover my flight back. Don't pay for me to control me. And I knew it'd get worse with kids and being married. You're at a rich person's whim if you put total trust in them for care. She just seemed like she was very used to getting her way.